Today, we're looking at an event that we recognize as Jesus' first miracle, his first public display of his divine power. It's the wedding at Cana. It's found in John chapter 2, verses 1 through 11. Let's read it. On the third day, there was a wedding at Cana in Galilee, and Jesus was invited with 4 of his disciples. Now, when the wine ran out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no more wine." And he said to her, "Woman, what does your concern have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Whatever he tells you, do it." Now there were 6 stone jars standing there, each holding about 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said, "Fill the jars with water." And they filled them up to the brim. And he said to them, "Draw some out now and take it to the master of the feast." So they did. And when the master of the banquet tasted the water that had become wine, and he knew that it was good wine, although he didn't know where it had come from, he called the groom and said to him, "Every man first serves up his best wine, and then when a man has his poorer wine, he saves it till the guests have all had plenty to drink. But you have kept the good wine till now." Now, if you are familiar with the gospel accounts, you'll remember that there are only 3 miracles attributed to Jesus that are shared by all 4 gospels. Those are the feeding of the 5,000, the walking on the water incident, and raising Lazarus from the dead. This wedding at Cana is only found in the Gospel of John, which is why I think it's important that we study it, because it shows us a little bit more about Jesus and gives us a glimpse into the heart of John's gospel. So first off, we need to talk about the purpose of this wedding. Weddings were very important events in Jewish culture. They were celebrations. They were feasts. They were times of great joy. And the scriptures tell us that Jesus went to this wedding not just as a guest, but as a friend of the groom. He was honored and respected. He was a part of the family. And weddings were also a time of rejoicing for the entire community. So this would have been a celebration full of music and dancing and good food and drink. And speaking of drink, let's talk about the wine. Wine was a big deal in the ancient world. It wasn't like sweet grape juice that you might drink today. It was an alcoholic beverage, and it was commonly enjoyed by everyone. In fact, there was a saying that you didn't eat without bread, and you didn't celebrate without wine. It was an essential part of their culture. And so in this story, the mother of Jesus notices that they were running out of wine. And she goes to Jesus and she says, "They have no more wine." Now, Jesus responds to his mom and says, "Woman, what does this have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." Now, the word woman here isn't like the Hebrew word that Eve was called after she sinned in the garden. It's not a term of shame or reproach. It's actually a respectful way of addressing a woman. That's how Jesus addresses Mary here. He calls her woman. But then Jesus says, "My hour has not yet come." What does that mean? Well, the Greek word that's translated hour is actually the same word that we get our word o'clock from. It's talking about a specific time. So Jesus is saying, "Mom, my time has not yet come." And he's basically telling her, "You don't understand what my job is here on earth." John says, there are things that Jesus does that even his disciples don't understand until after he has finished his earthly ministry, until after he has risen from the dead, until after the Holy Spirit has come. Only then do they begin to understand. So John wants us to know that there are depths to Jesus that we will never fully understand. There are mysteries to God that we will never fully comprehend. We will never fully know everything about Jesus. There will always be more to discover. I think one of the reasons that John includes this story is to show us that Jesus has all authority. He can control the natural laws. He can do the impossible. He can turn water into wine. He doesn't need our permission. He doesn't need our help. He doesn't need anyone's permission. He doesn't need anything. He is God. He can do anything that he wants. And so Mary, instead of being offended at what Jesus said, instead of getting angry, she just trusts him. She takes him at his word. She trusts that he knows what he's talking about. And then Jesus tells them to turn the water into wine. And what's amazing about this is that Jesus doesn't go into these jars and change the water himself. He simply tells them to do it. He tells the servants, do it, and they do it. They don't question it. They don't try to understand it. They don't ask why. They just do it. And then Jesus tells them to take it to the head of the party, to take it to the master of the feast, to take it to the person whose responsibility it was to make sure that everyone had wine. And he tells him, take it to him and let him taste it. And so they do that. They hand this wine to the master of the feast, who tastes it and says, whoa, this is some good wine. This is high quality stuff. This is really good. But the thing is, he didn't know where the wine came from. He didn't know that it was water that had just been turned into wine. He didn't know that it was a miracle. All he knew was that this was great wine. And so he calls over the groom and he says, listen, friend, you normally serve the highest quality wine first, the best wine first, and then you save the cheaper stuff till later. But you saved your best wine till now. That's crazy. Everyone's drunk. Everyone's having a great time. And you're saving the best wine till now. That's incredible. That's awesome. And so, he praises the groom for this excellent choice. He doesn't realize that it's a miracle. He doesn't realize that Jesus did something supernatural. All he knows is that this is the best wine he's ever had. And then John tells us that the Jews who were following Jesus from John the Baptist saw this miracle, and they were amazed. They were astonished. They were puzzled. John wants us to know that Jesus did these miracles to show us that he had divine power. He wanted people to believe in him. He wanted them to have faith in him. He wanted them to trust him. And so here, the only ones who really understood what happened were Mary and the disciples. It was wonderful. It was fantastic. It was astonishing. No one else got it. And so here, John begins his gospel by showing us that Jesus is God. Jesus is divine. He is powerful. He is the Messiah. He is the Christ. And all throughout John's gospel, Jesus is going to perform other miracles to show people who he is. John wants us to know that Jesus is God. He wants us to believe in Jesus. And so he starts his gospel with Jesus turning water into wine. Let us know in the comment section below what you thought of this teaching. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. Check out our other videos and subscribe so that you can be notified every time we post new content. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.